I just rolled a nat 1 on my spell check to cast Charm Person, so I wind up with a duplicate of my own face growing out of my back. Hey there, adventurers. My name is Judd, and this is Short Rest Studios, where we believe fun builds community. Dungeon Crawl Classics is one of my favorite tabletop role-playing games for the kind of crazy action D&D 5e often lacks. So here's my countdown of the 5 craziest DCC RPG mechanics that I think D&D needs to steal, and you have to stick around for number 1. It is completely unhinged. Starting off the countdown at number 5, Mighty Deeds of Arms. If you've ever been playing D&D or another TTRPG and you wanted to perform some crazy stunt like skewering 2 opponents with one hurl of a javelin or leaping from an ally's back to swing your battle axe at a monster that was out of reach, only to be greeted with the regular old roll your d20, or worse, told no because the rules didn't allow for it, DCC's Mighty Deeds were made for you. Now, granted, a great GM and players can overcome these kind of rules limitations, but DCC makes these kinds of stunts inherent in the martial classes. In DCC, warriors and dwarves each roll what's known as a deed die, an additional die that's rolled along with every attack roll. The result of that roll is added to both the attack and the damage. So even when there's no Mighty Deed of Arms involved, the deed die provides a serious power boost. Along with the next item on this countdown, stick around for it, it's a boost that pretty much negates any power gap between martials and casters. At first level, the deed die is a D3. Don't forget about DCC's funky dice. And it goes up from there at each level. Instead of a fixed attack modifier, warriors and dwarves have the deed die, meaning the modifier changes with every attack. But this modifier die really lets its crazy out when the warrior or dwarf declares that they're going to perform a mighty deed of arms before they roll their attack. They want to disarm the skeleton or swing across a chasm and crash into the enemy line, or sweep the gnoll's legs and make a skull-crushing blow while they're prone. The deed needs to be a dramatic combat maneuver, but it doesn't increase damage. It could, though, create some other combat effect. In the examples I just mentioned, the skeleton loses its weapon, the enemy line is pushed back, or the gnoll face plants and is now a sitting duck. When they make their attack roll, if the deed die is a 3 or higher and the attack hits, their mighty deed succeeds. If it's less than 3 or the total roll doesn't overcome the enemy's AC, the deed fails. You get pretty basic successes on these at lower levels, which still ups the fun for sure, but at higher levels, the deed die really shows its worth. The higher the deed die roll, the more insanity ensues. Let's say you want to trip or throw your opponent. If you roll a 3 on your deed die, the enemy rolls a reflex save against your attack. If they fail, they're prone, and melee attacks against a prone opponent get a +2. But if you roll a 7 or higher on the deed die, you can throw an opponent more than twice your size up to 10 feet. Or maybe you want to shoot an arrow so precisely that it seems beyond the abilities of mortal man, like shooting through a keyhole and hitting that orc before he kills the hostages. If you roll a 7 or up, you can do it as long as the judge, that's the GM in DCC, buys your explanation. You can literally get as crazy as you want, as long as the judge and the dice are on board. Coming in at number 4 on our countdown of crazy DCC RPG mechanics D&D needs to steal, Mercurial Magic. This won't be as detailed as the discussion of Mighty Deeds because it's pretty simple, but it is one of the mechanics that DCC is known for and a huge factor in the overall gonzo action and unpredictability of the game. Every spellcaster is different, therefore every spell works differently in different hands. Every time a wizard learns a new spell, they roll percentile dice on a Mercurial Magic table to determine how that spell works for them. If you roll really badly on that table, someone you know could die every time you cast color spray. Or it could be so hard to cast that instead of rolling a d20, you roll a d14 to cast it. It could cause a planar rift or make you fall asleep for a day or actually do damage to you or someone else. There are plenty of other horrible things that could happen, one of which is the number 1 spot on this countdown, no spoilers. On the other hand, it could just make you hangry, giving you a -2 penalty to personality rolls, or create a psychic shield that gives you an AC bonus. Or maybe you just have so much natural talent that you get to roll a d30 instead of a d20 whenever you cast it. There are a ton of other moderately annoying to beneficial outcomes too. And all of this is in addition to the actual results of the spell. Before we move on to number 3, I want to tell you about today's sponsor, Homie and the Dude. If you're looking for a wild new setting to drop your campaign into, whether you're running DCC 5e or something else, check out the worlds of Homie and the Dude. This is the father and son team that brought us the Wandering Tavern, a Studio Ghibli-inspired floating city full of spirits, cool magical items, dark secrets, and an airship load of resources for your game. More recently, their successful Kickstarter for the Scorched Basin was funded in 8 hours. The Scorched Basin is a system-agnostic desert punk setting inspired by the post-apocalyptic mayhem of Mad Max and the mysticism and deep lore of Dune. It's got multiple desert terrains, 5 competing factions, unique creatures and player options, a one-of-a-kind magic system, languages, incredible history and lore, battle maps, printable 3D models, pre-built vehicles, and rules for driving them, a custom soundtrack, and you can pre-order the hardcover and PDF at the link in the description. Plus, if you use code SHORTREST, you can get 20% off your order and support this channel. Number 3 on our countdown, critical hits. Now, let me say up front that I really went back and forth about which rules should be at the 3 and 4 spots, but a lot of the items on this list are magic-centric. This one made it to number 3 over Mercurial Magic, partly because it's more centered on martial abilities. Critical hits are always fun. In D&D 5e, a critical hit doubles your damage, and nimble crits explode, letting you keep rolling damage as long as you keep critting. But crits in DCC make for some absolutely bombastic outcomes. As in 5e, a natural 20 on a d20 roll is a critical hit, but what makes crits fun and unpredictable in DCC is this. When you roll a nat 20, you then roll on a critical hit table, adjusting the roll with your luck modifier. Higher is better, and every class gets its own crit table. And the tables even change as you level up, giving you more and more insane outcomes. For example, a crit for 0 level characters and all wizards can cause you to take damage and lose your weapon. That's if your luck score is dismal and you roll really badly. Or it could cause you to dent your opponent's skull and cause additional damage or even a reduction in their intelligence. By the way, you can sign up to my email list and download my DCC to 5e crit and fumble table conversions PDF for free at the link in the description. Thieves and elves can miss on a bad crit table roll or instantly kill their opponent on a great one. A warrior can destroy their enemy's spinal column and cause paralysis, or explode their heart or decapitate them with a single strike. Incidentally, when that happens, you also get to keep attacking anyone within 10 feet of you until you miss. As the rulebook says, you are death incarnate. Hey, if you've ever wanted to be death incarnate, hit that like button. All right, adventurers, it's time for the runner-up. Coming in at number 2 on our countdown of 5 crazy dungeon crawl classics mechanics D&D should steal, Spell Duels. In DCC, when 2 wizards meet, a fight is coming. Because every wizard wants to be the best wizard, they engage in a spell duel. One casts a spell, the second counters it with another, and on they go, hurling spells at one another until somebody wins. Part of the craziness of spell duels is that they actually veer away from some of DCC's standard mechanics, like initiative. See, a duel can happen in full party combat. They do have to proceed in initiative order. A wizard or a cleric casts the first spell on their turn, but a caster who falls later in the turn order might have to respond immediately, even before the rest of their party can take their turns. And a caster who goes last can't have their spells countered. If you counter a spell and then choose not to counter the next, you'll go in regular initiative order on that next turn. Of course, bad things can obviously happen in a spell duel. For example, if 2 fireballs go off successfully, someone higher in the turn order than the defender could be killed. When I say they counter a spell, there's no spell called counterspell in DCC. In a duel, you actually have to counter one spell with another spell, and not all spells can counter each other. Usually, you either have to respond with the same spell, for example, Fireball can be cast to counter Fireball, or you can cast a defensive spell like Magic Shield to counter something like Magic Missile, for instance. You can't take any other actions when you counter. And it gets even crazier. When a caster counters another caster's spell, the winner of that round of the duel is determined by comparing their spell checks. Based on these results, you roll on the counterspell power table to determine the outcome. One spell could take effect while also reflecting the other back at the caster, for example. Both spells could take effect simultaneously, or both could cancel each other out. If the spell checks are of equal power, both can be spontaneously sent to a pocket dimension, get caught in a time loop, or the spells can merge to create something even worse, or demons could be summoned and attack. Those are just a few of the possible outcomes. Let's say you're the defending wizard and you win a few rounds, successfully casting Magic Shield and warding off your attacker's magic missile or canceling out their fireball with your own. You build momentum with each success. In a duel, each player uses a d20 to track momentum. You start with a 10, and if your spell check is more powerful, you add 1 to your tracker. For each momentum point you're ahead, you get to add to your roll on the counter spell power table. That means the more momentum you build, the easier it is to keep building. Both wizards and clerics can spell duel. They can even duel each other. Number 1 on our countdown of crazy Dungeon Crawl Classics mechanics D&D should rip off can be the result of failed spells or spell duels gone awry. Corruption. In the world of DCC, the constant use of magic is dangerous. Not only can spells fail, but they can misfire, causing unintended effects. And wizards also run the risk of becoming corrupted by those eldritch energies. A natural 1 on a spell check automatically fails, but it can also trigger corruption. Every spell entry in the core rules includes specific results based on your spell check roll, and sometimes those results have you roll on either a major, minor, or greater corruption table. You roll 1d10 minus the spell's level plus your luck modifier. Some kinds of dark magic even cause corruption more often. But don't worry, you can burn a point of luck to avoid it. I mean, maybe still worry. I gave you one example of the kind of corruption that can happen at the beginning of this video, a second face growing on your back. That's one of the more tame effects on the major corruption table. Minor corruption ranges from developing pustules on your face to mutated ears or passing out for 1d6 hours. Major corruption includes that gross face thing, but it could also lead to a demonic taint that gives you goat legs, cause you to gain 6d12 pounds in a month, or cause your tongue to fork and nostrils to narrow like some OSR Voldemort. And greater corruption, well, a demon lord could claim part of your soul. Your limbs could be replaced by suckered tentacles. You could grow scales or gills or webbed toes. Or over the course of a year, your mouth could transform into a squid beak. I mean, at least then you gain a bite attack. Hey, let me know in the comments what kind of corruption you want. Again, these are just a few examples of the horrific consequences of corruption. There you go, adventurers. That's my countdown of the 5 craziest mechanics in Dungeon Crawl Classics that D&D should steal. How does it compare to your list? Drop me a comment and let me know. If you dig this kind of content, please hit the like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And please consider supporting the channel by joining the Adventurers Guild at patreon.com/shortreststudios or by hitting that join button right under this video. I said it earlier, DCC is one of my favorite tabletop role-playing games. Check out this video to find out why, and I'll see you next time on Short Rest Studios.